Meat. It's the most expensive ingredient in dog food. So dog food makers will go pretty far to make you believe that there's more meat in the food than there actually is. So today, I'm going to ruin it for them and show you the tricks that they use to deceive you into thinking that you're getting what you paid for. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this channel, and if you're on YouTube, click the alert notification. Now, in the US and Canada, dog foods need to follow AAFCO's rules to make the complete and balanced claim. Now, the majority of dry dog foods are called something like chicken recipe, beef formula, or lamb entree. Now, you need to pay attention to these descriptors like dinner, formula, and entree, because what they mean is that the main ingredient that's in the name, and in this case, chicken, beef, or lamb, needs to be at least 25% of the finished product by weight. So, for example, Blue Buffalo's Wilderness Chicken recipe means there's at least 25% chicken in there. The rest of the food is mainly peas and some fish meal. So that seems pretty straightforward, right? Beef dinner, entree, or any other descriptor means that there's at least 25% beef in the food. Now, I really struggle to agree that beef is a main ingredient since this food is 75% other stuff, but at least it's a rule that we can understand so we have some idea of what's in the bag. Well, that's not exactly true because there are some common ways that pet food makers can legally get around this rule. Now, you might think that whole meat is better than meat meals, but not when it comes to the dinner rule. Most kibble is about 10% moisture, as are meat meals, but real meat, like whole chicken, is about 70% water. Now, because most of the weight is water, this will shoot chicken up to the first ingredient. But technically, it can end up being just 7% of the final food once the water is removed. So the people at AAFCO were aware of this trick, and they said that if a manufacturer adds meat to their food instead of meal, then they can still call it the main ingredient as long as it's at least 10% of the food's weight. Now, wait a minute. The dinner rule is there to tell us that the main ingredient, you know, the one in the name of the food, is actually a significant part of the food. But if they choose to use just 10% pink slime, they can call their food beef dinner, even though their food is 90% other stuff. That's kind of misleading, don't you think? Now, I'm not saying that meat meal is better. It's highly processed, and processed foods have been linked to incrementally higher risk of all-cause mortality in humans. But at least you know what you're getting if meal is the first ingredient, and you know that animal protein will be at least 25% of the food instead of just 10%. But there's another way that pet food makers can trick you with the food's name. Now, here's Purina's turkey and venison formula. So now you have two main ingredients on the name followed by a descriptor, which is formula. That means that the food has to contain at least 25% turkey and venison combined if they're meal. If they're fresh meat, then they only need to be 10% of the food. Now, looking at the ingredient list, there's probably more chicken in this food than anything else, even though the food is called turkey and venison. And speaking of venison, look, there it is, way down there in between glycerin and natural flavor. That's a really tiny amount of venison. And that's because if there's two ingredients in the name, one of them only needs to be 3% of the food by weight. So how can they say this food is turkey and venison? It's very possible that the main protein is chicken because 70% of the weight of the turkey will be water, yet this food can still be called turkey and venison. But it gets worse. Let's see what happens if a dog food has two named ingredients but only one is meat. Now, here's Rachel Ray's beef, pea, and brown rice recipe. This has three named ingredients, which means that they all need to add up to 25% of the food by weight, with each ingredient making up at least 3% of the food. Now, looking at the label, there's a decent amount of beef, but where are the peas and rice? Not that I want peas and rice in dog food. Peas are full of glyphosate and rice is full of arsenic, but they're a whole lot better than soy, corn, and sorghum, three really nasty, dirty crops. Besides, shouldn't dog food makers be truthful about what's in the bag? I'm looking at this picture on the front of the bag and I don't see any soybeans or corn, which are the number 2 and number 3 ingredients in this food by weight. So you have to be aware of the marketing behind kibble. And remember, if a company is playing tricks on you, it's probably not a good idea to trust them with your dog's health. And don't believe that AAFCO is looking out for your dog's safety either, because they're just following AAFCO's very arbitrary rules that are there to make dog food makers happy, not you, and certainly not your dog. Now, if you have any questions in general or about dog food ingredients, make sure you leave a comment below. We're always here to help out. And if you like this video, please like it, share it, and tell people about it. Thanks for watching.